Good day, everyone. You are listening to All Jiu-Jitsu podcast. In this series, we're looking to explore the business side of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is brought to you by alljujitsu.com, the world's first complete business platform for BJJ professionals. And here we're talking about athletes, coaches, BJJ brands, freelancers such as BJJ photographers, event organizers, and so on. All Jiu-Jitsu provides you with access to an online marketplace where you can sell your services such as seminars and private classes, manage your calendar, communicate with your clients, or sell physical goods all in one place. If you want to make a step towards being truly professional, join us on alljujitsu.com. Our guest today is a black belt from the UK, Chris Thompson. Chris is the co-founder and organizer of one of the best European grappling shows called GrappleFest. In this episode, Chris shares his motivation for creating the event, the interesting venue, which is a nightclub in Liverpool, his relationships with athletes, matchmaking, working with Flograplling, and a lot more. We hope you enjoy this episode, and if you do, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Chris, thanks very much for joining All Jiu-Jitsu podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Although a lot of people, a lot of listeners will know you obviously as the face of the GrappleFest promotion, the Figure 4 promotions. So we'll probably start just with that, maybe a little bit of background on yourself and on the creation, the initial stages of the GrappleFest.
Yeah, it came about really. I was a little bit frustrated I'd done quite a lot of competing. In all sorts of aspects. I've done sort of MMA and submission grappling and gi jiu-jitsu as well. I was a little just sort of disillusioned with the IBJF sort of thing, which is, seen as the standard in grappling. Wasn't really the points thing, and it wasn't really my way of grappling. It should always be the submission, and I think it's gone away from that a little bit. So we want to do something a little bit different and get back to sort of what we believe is the origins of grappling, really, which you should be looking for submission all the time. So that was the sort of the way we set up the show. Me and my partner Darren Morris, and we decided to sort of go ahead and push forward with that and try and bring a show together. And I think it seems to be working pretty well. So people seem to like it. So yeah, we're pretty happy with the way things are going.
And how many shows you've done so far?
We've done 8 shows so far. We were due to do our 9th on May the 23rd, but obviously with everything that's sort of the world's imploding at the moment with the Corona business, we've decided to sort of put that one on the back burner until sort of things blow over. So yeah, 8 shows in the bag so far in 2 years.
And they are all held in the same place in Liverpool, is that correct?
Yeah, all in Fusion Nightclub in Liverpool. Sort of got that as our base, really. I've had a look at a couple of other venues, but they don't quite seem to sort of have. This place has got everything. It's got a good warm-up area. It's got good internet connection, which is obviously really important. It's got good floor space. It's got good mat, for the mats and everything. Plus standing people. Plus it's got booths. It sort of fits the whole thing, the whole ethos that we wanted. We also wanted to get away from. There's quite a few really, really good jiu-jitsu shows that use that theatre type atmosphere, where it's quite quiet and the stage is and everything. We wanted away from that sort of, the way we always sort of say is we wanted like a darts type atmosphere rather than the snooker. So we like to sort of say like that. We wanted it loud, busy, a crowd, and we think that the nightclub effect has managed to pull that off.
Yeah, that's pretty distinct. So one of the questions I was going to ask you is how is it different? But aside from the jiu-jitsu, the venue choice is very interesting. It's the whole nightclub thing. The first time I seen it, it was like, well, this is definitely something I haven't seen before. With steel shining here and there, like the typical nightclub stuff. So and how was the kind of the first engagement with the owners of that place? Were they surprised that you'd want to put something like a jiu-jitsu show in their nightclub?
Yeah, they were a little bit. It's a little bit different, isn't it? Jiu-jitsu in a nightclub, but that was one of the things. Again, we wanted to sort of separate ourselves from everybody else. In terms of the venue, it's quite an interesting one. But my background, I've done a lot of security and things like that. I used to run the door on that club.
Okay, so you had the connection.
Yeah, I had the connection. I used to run the door on it quite a few years ago now. We go back to about 2010, 2011. And then they revamped it, did it all, got it going. They've had a couple of boxing shows in there early doors because it's a crazy place. They only actually open that place at midnight and it goes on till 6, 7 in the morning. So they've got all this free time before that, on Saturdays and Sundays and even Fridays. So, the guy who owns it, he's become sort of a friend of mine. And he's put on a couple of shows, boxing shows and things like that. So, I thought, well, why not we do jiu-jitsu? We had this idea. We looked at a few different venues and I just kept going back to that one and going back to it in my head and going, we can pull this off in there. It's got enough space. It's got everything. It's for what we want. And we cracked on, went forward with it, did the first show, and we pulled it off. Everything worked well, and that was it. That became our base.
And in terms of your initial setup, so was it always a long-term project? As in, did you always intend to have multiple shows and say this is like just continue in perpetuity, or did you say that we'll try one and see how it goes? What was the strategy from the start?
100%. We went in as a long-term strategy. There's been some fantastic shows over the years that have sort of not lasted the course. So we sort of took a little bit from those ones, thought what we had seen that had worked, things that had gone wrong, tried to put it all together, and make our show. But yeah, it was definitely a long-term thing. We just thought there was a niche market for this type of show in jiu-jitsu and submission grappling, I like to call it, really, because obviously getting away from sort of it isn't gi jiu-jitsu that we do. We wanted to separate ourselves from that. Yeah, and we just sort of went forward. It was a long-term plan, and the plan that we had at the start is pretty much the plan that we have now, sort of 2 years down the line. So yeah, we're just trying to grow it and make it bigger.
And in terms of the separation of yourselves from other similar type of shows, so I had a few conversations with the event organizers, the athletes, whereby you tend to see kind of similar faces in both competitions and the camps alike. So how did you solve that problem? Where you say, okay, can we bring something different? Because I know you started off relatively small compared to where you are now in terms of the names that you brought in. How was that progression, and how was it intentional? Kind of, you said, okay, we'll have a smaller show to start with to keep it sustainable and then grow it over a period of time. So what was thinking behind that?
Well, we started off, it's quite an interesting question actually, because we started off and we sort of used basically UK guys to set that up, but that wasn't through want of trying. But with us being a new promotion, first of all, it was pretty hard to get any names involved. So the way we did it is we thought, right, okay, let's put on a good show, good production, good competitors, a high level standard. Then when we can approach some of the bigger names, we can actually go, listen, here's a little highlight clip, here's what we've done. The first show really was all about that highlight clip, generating, what we managed to do, putting ourselves out there, showing people what we were trying to do. So it was all about that side of it. There's some fantastic promotions have been, like I said, there's things been like Meta Morris and Polaris, which are all sort of known names in the jiu-jitsu scene. Especially the early days. Polaris has changed a little bit now. They've got different people on the undercards and things like that. But initially they were just all big names. And then you had your other shows, which were basically just homegrown talent, smaller shows. There have been things like Sub 15 and Tough in the UK, and Tanko, which I fought on myself. There've been shows like that where they were just all UK names. So we wanted that different thing where we brought in some big names at the top of the card, 4 or 5 fights at the top of the card, and then the rest of them was UK guys, European guys. So it was a mix of people. This was always the idea, because no one was sort of doing that. No one had some big names and then some local talent as well, and then some national talent. Nobody sort of had that angle really at the time. So this was the plan. Like I say, the first show, it was a little bit more difficult. We approached a few people. It was difficult negotiations. We didn't have any background. We didn't have anything there. People are a little bit wary of you. So we thought, okay, let's crack on. We got probably arguably the biggest name at the time in Ross Nichols. He was initially headlined to fight Paddy Pimblett. He was a big MMA sort of guy. We were going to do that match, but that fell through. Paddy got injured. So we put him against Jack Grant in a no time limit. match. It went 35 minutes. Everyone loved the match. It went crazy. Everyone loved the rest of the card. We got some brilliant highlight reels from it. We got everything we needed down. And the second phase was to go, okay, let's try and make this and start trying to bring some big names into the show. So yeah, that was sort of the background how we set out our stall.
As far as kind of I can observe among the different shows, yours is probably one of the longest in terms of the actual time coverage, and because the amount of people that you have on the undercard, the amount of kind of lower belts that are competing, including I think you have the kids competing as well. So it's probably, if I had to compare, probably similar to what Fight to Win do in the States.
It's quite similar, but that it wasn't intentional at all. It really wasn't intentional. But yeah, we're about 4 hours, just over 4 hours most of the shows. A little break in there, but yeah, we start them off. We've had quite a few kids on some of the shows. Then we've even had blue belts on that. We mainly sort of stick purple and above, but we have had sort of blue belt tournaments and things like that, and we've had the winners of those blue belt matches on. So yeah, it is quite a long show. It lasts about 4 hours. Yeah, about roughly between 26 and 30 matches each time.
Yeah, that's a lot of matches to go through. And how many people work kind of on this promotion for you?
Full time. Was basically myself who's on it full time. Me and Darren, my partner, we're 50-50 on it. Obviously, he's got other things going on as well. So that was sort of unintentional. It just happened that way, where I became more involved in it and sort of running it full time. On the day, wow, we've got around say 20 people, I think, helping out and running things. All people who I know. Most of them are sort of ex-students or ex-students of mine from when I used to have a gym. My wife, friends, even down to the DJs, one of my brown belts. The girls on the door are like blue and purple belts of mine. They're all people who I trust and people who can use together. So it's quite a close knit team. The only people really we outsource are the film guys, the video crew, the film crew, which is Adam Robson, Share Fight, who's excellent, he's very well known. He does a fantastic job.
Yeah, that's amazing. And another question that I have that stems from my prior discussions with various people, in terms of your initial intentions and your kind of business planning for this event, without going into specifics, have you managed to cover your initial setup costs on the first show, or was it always kind of the idea we might make a loss on the first one and then try to recover it on the subsequent shows?
Luckily on the first show we sold really well. People loved it. A lot of people came out, a lot of people bought tickets. At the time we weren't obviously with Flograplling, so our only revenue streams were ticket sales and any sponsors. Sponsors were minuscule on the first couple of events. Do you know what I mean? We've managed to raise a few since then. So yeah, we basically decided to push it that way. But yeah, like I said, we didn't make a lot of money, but we broke even from the start. And we were like, okay, this is something we can build on.
And how do you ensure? What are your core principles behind consistency and sustainability, right? Because you want to keep your show sustainable. You don't want to go too crazy on the fighter payments or whatever else the expenses are. And what are your kind of core principles that you operate by to make sure that it's sustainable?
I stick to a pretty rigid budget now. I pretty much know what the show's going to cost me. I work everything out. I'm forecasting against sort of previous shows, how many tickets we sold, what sponsors we brought in, what are sort of, any payments that we've managed to get off Flow, things like that. I know how much I can pay athletes. And don't get me wrong, I've had to turn down some big names. Virtually every single show, I have to turn down big names because they ask way too much money. I just think, if I take that guy at double the price that I'm paying, for somebody else who are of the same standard, I think sometimes, and I'm just like, there's no point, because I could run then at a negative equity just for the sake of bringing somebody in. So I'm pretty rigid on my budget. I'm pretty, I say, right, okay, we've got X amount. The last couple of shows generated this much money. Shows around, because it actually changes. We've noticed over the 8 shows, it can be at different times of year. The summertime shows seem to sell less tickets than the shows in the winter time. I think generally because people have got summer holidays, kids at school, things like that, going back to school. So people are a bit tight with the money, I think, then. So we sort of know exactly what we need to, what we can spend, what we've got, and I put all that together and sort of work it all out and go, okay, yeah, this can work. We can put these matches together. I can put this card together, forecasting off what we've done off, say, the last 2 previous shows, because they've grown every single time, you see. So say the last 2 shows, if I base it off that, then hopefully we'll grow again on the next show, and then we'll be able to generate some funds.
Very good. And do you find that the fact that you're having so many undercard matches, the lower belts and the kids, helping the sales in terms of the live gate especially?
Yeah, 100%. Those guys, especially the local guys, they'll sell. We've had people on there who sold 50, 60 tickets. They've made themselves a good wage, a good commission. The mates have had a great time watching it. And they stayed for the whole show. The people have stayed in. They've made themselves a few quid. They've had a good match, and and everyone's enjoyed it. So yeah, obviously having that bigger card, generating that card, it does help with those sales, which obviously cover a lot of the costs on the day.
Yeah, and what is the capacity in the venue?
It's around 600-700, something like that.
Yeah, so that's big enough.
We're averaging between 400 and 500 people in there, sort of at each time. So there is room for a little bit more, but we've been very full. We've had a place packed out a couple of times, and it's weird sometimes. Like I said, people do stay in, but you also get a shift and stuff like that. By the end of the night, it's normally pretty full. We've had some cards we've started off, and it's not like there's a lot of people there, and we've been like, oh wow, so where is everyone? But I'm thinking we sold quite a few tickets. Well, where are all these people? And they've rolled in sort of 2 hours into the show, and by the end of the show, it's absolutely packed. And the noise levels are really high. So I'm sure that's the same with all promotions as well.
Yeah, that's nice. And does the nightclub activity start after that straight away, pretty much?
Yeah, we're pretty much done around 9:30, something like that. We're cleared out by 10:30, and that's it. They're changing things around, and they're open at midnight. So we always say to them we'll be out by 11 o'clock at the very, very latest. We've never been that late ever. Last time we did our show, we went through it pretty quick. I think it was about 3.5 hours, something like that. We were done around 8:30, 9, because we start around 4 o'clock. I think we're done for 8:30. That was with all the breaks, clearing the place out, getting everyone out. Everyone's out for 8:30. So then they crack on at midnight. Pretty crazy.
Big turnaround, which is, I guess, works out well for them as well. So extra revenue stream. So let's talk a little bit then about the revenue streams. But before we move on to the different revenue streams, so if I remember correctly, the first show you tried to organize your own live streaming, like pay-per-view type of stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did the undercard free on Facebook. We streamed that free on Facebook, again, just for promotion, to get our name out there so people could see it. And then we did the main card as a pay-per-view. I think it was pretty cheap. I think it was like $4.99 or maybe even cheaper. I'm not even sure. I can't actually remember. And we sort of said, what can we, hopefully people buy the stream. And actually, we were quite surprised. Quite a few people did actually buy it. So I think that came off as streaming the undercard. We had some great matches on the undercard. I'm pretty careful. A few people always said to me, "Why is he on the undercard?" And he should be on the main card. But I do that on purpose so people watch it, as well. As I chucked some black belt fights on the undercard. We chucked a few good matches in. Everyone seemed to like it. The quality was pretty good, which Facebook compress things, and I'm sure you're very aware of it. They compress the stream down, so sometimes it can look pretty crap, and it's not your fault. But we had a good internet connection. The stream was very, very good, and then obviously I think a few people jumped onto the main card. So yeah, that worked. That worked. Got us out there. So yeah.
But then you started working with Flograplling, right? So what show did Flograplling come in, and how did they come into the picture? Did they approach you, or you approached them? So how is the relationship working with the Flograplling? Yeah,
they approached us on the second show. It's quite interesting. I was quite friendly with Craig Jones. I had him over when he fought in Polaris. I'd had him in my gym for a seminar. I'd stayed in touch with him. I'd been over and trained with him in Thailand. Did a week's training with him over there. So I'd spoken to him and said, "Listen, would you fancy headlining a card for me? If I can get would you do it?" And he said, yeah. He jumped at it. He's an absolutely great guy. So I managed to secure Craig. So then the next thing was I need to get a big name for him. So I was sort of going through a list of names, trying to look through who he wanted. I was talking to him as well, saying, who do you want to fight, and things like that, who any guys. We sort of looked at the match on against Mateus Diniz. I was supposed to have been on Kazai a couple of months before. I can't remember what actually happened, whether I'm not entirely sure what happened, but the match didn't happen for some reason. So I approached Mateus after approaching a sort of couple of people as well who were hard work and asking for lots of money. I approached Mateus. He jumped at it straight away. Real nice guy, fantastic, great to talk to. I was actually on holiday, just sat there sort of around the pool on my phone, trying to sort this match out. Messages going back and forth. We secured this match. Everything was done. We got it out there in the press. Jiu-Jitsu Times released it for us. We got it out there. Everyone was like, wow, we've managed to secure this big match, a match that a lot of people wanted to see. So I thought, yeah, this is fantastic. We're going to get some good ticket sales. We'll get the pay-per-view will be bigger this time. Everything will be great. So like I said, I was actually away on holiday at the time. I got off the plane, turned my phone back on when I was on the plane, and there was a message off Ricardo from Flow in my inbox, sort of saying who's the guy I can speak to, who's running this show, blah blah blah, in the Figure 4 inbox, the GrappleFest page on Facebook. So I got straight back onto him and said, yeah, it's me, blah blah blah. I got to start talking away to him, and they said, listen, we're interested in streaming this match. Got chatting to him. They'd already had a look at the stuff on the Facebook page. He'd seen the stuff. They'd seen that the production was decent. They'd seen everything. We said, we're interested in sort of in doing things with you. How do you feel about that? So we're back and forth in some negotiations because we were trying to work out, projection-wise, we could sell X amount of pay-per-views. Is it worth it? Is this there? But at the end of the day, Flograppling is Flograppling. It's huge. Everyone who's interested in jiu-jitsu or competes jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, a lot of people have got an account or they're watching it. And we thought we'd be crazy not to sort of get in bed with them and obviously start, promoting the show, trying to do it that way. So we agreed some figures, got things nailed down. They initially gave us like a 3-show deal, as long as we got we fulfilled certain requirements that they had. Yeah, and that was it. So they approached us, we got everything together. So it was putting the matches together, putting ourselves out there. We got that deal together, and then since then we've had a good relationship. We signed another deal with them about a year or so ago that takes us up to the end of the end of this year, or is it 2000? Yeah, the end of this year. Yeah. For another, I think we've got another 5 shows contracted for another 5 shows. Obviously, we've just missed this show that we've had to cancel in May. So yeah, everything's going good, really good. They've been really supportive. They promote our event. They're really happy with us. So yeah, we can see it continuing.
Very good. And in terms of these kind of split of responsibilities in this relationship, so what do they actually do for you in terms of, or do they do anything in terms of the kind of filming, or do you just have to organize everything yourself and just feed them the stream, and then they kind of just obviously put it onto their platform, or do they actually do some of the filming production?
No, we do the entire thing. We film it. We own. Yeah, we have all the things. We feed the stream to them, which our guys basically link up on from their link, puts that, and then that goes live around the world. So they sort of have the footage off their site that way. So yeah, we do everything. We just have to basically make sure the speeds are correct. The guys link up, make sure that everything's running right. That it's not a slow stream. That they can stream it themselves, so it's good quality, and the camera works okay. We just sort of have to give them guarantees like that, and it doesn't drop. It can never be 100% guaranteed. We once actually had the whole internet in the venue just turned off for about. It was only a couple of minutes, but the whole thing shut down. I think it was on show 4 or 5 or something. And we completely lost it. There was a couple of minutes of panic until we got it back. Yeah, once we got things up and running again, we've been pretty good so far, pretty well.
So generally, when you having a deal with somebody from the outside, it always comes with some form of a trade-off. Is there any trade-offs that you had to kind of just swallow and say, yeah, okay, we're missing out on this particular part, but at the end of the day, it's a good deal for us, and we go ahead. Is there anything that you had to kind of forgo in the deal with?
Not really. No, it's obviously we can't sort of start putting matches ourselves, our content out on our own. We're allowed to use highlights and things like that, but we can't start streaming matches entirely on our own platforms. But I think that's fair enough. That's the deal. Flow pay us some revenue for the stream, so we can't suddenly then start throwing things out there for free. But to be they're good anyway, especially a lot of the undercard matches. They put little clips, little highlights out. We had this last weekend, they did like a whole GrappleFest weekend where they were just playing our stuff on the main page of the site all the time. They do a lot of promotion for us. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it. It's a good deal, and it gets us out there. Everyone knows us. It got to the point now I can literally approach anybody in the community and they know who the show is. And I'm talking from guys, when I've talked to the top guys in the world, Gordon Ryan, people like that, when I speak to them, they know who we are, they've watched us, they know everything. So we couldn't probably have got our name out there like this if we'd have continued down the pay-per-view route. I think the pay-per-view route is pretty difficult these days for sort of, for professional grappling shows.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's sort of a badge of honor as well, right? Having Flograplling being interested in you because they're on the kind of forefront of the streaming in the community. I think it's, the fact that they are streaming you kind of helps the kind of self-promote as well.
Yeah, definitely. When you go to people and you say to them, it's live on Flow, everyone knows it and understands it, especially in the early days before we'd grown the name and people knew the name when we were first starting off, say GrappleFest 2, GrappleFest 3, when I could go to people and show them footage of the show and that, it's streamed live on Flow. Pretty much all the professional top athletes have got Flow accounts. They're going to go on there, they're going to check you out and go, yeah, okay, these guys are legit. So, yeah, it's definitely. And we've been their main show in Europe. The only show they've got in Europe, to be honest, for the last couple of years. There's a couple of other guys signed some contracts now as well. But we've been the flagship show and we still are there. Basically told us we are their flagship show in Europe for what we do. So that's been pretty cool as well. You know what I mean? So it's sort of, a lot of the European guys know us and then they all know us and they want to get on the show. So yeah, it is a prestigious thing. Yeah. You get people, you can have a look at things, you see Reddit and things and people are moaning about Flow and stuff. But at the end of the day, that those guys all still watch it anyway. So, it's become like a trendy little thing for them to say, to have a little go at stuff. But Flow are the ones doing it. You've got to give them the dues. They produce this content. They put it out there. They put it, they're the guys doing it. And they can't put this content out for free. It's like a lot of people seem to expect things for free in life. It's crazy.
It's very interesting to see the sentiment around the various businesses that are charging for their services. And part of my goal with these podcasts is precisely to give the insight into what goes into running these businesses. So there is a little bit more appreciation for them. And I keep repeating kind of the same sentence in every episode, but it's true. Whether it's running an academy or anything else that you do. And I'm pretty sure, like anytime you complain about Flow, just think about what goes into it, what it takes to be pretty much the only big company or that runs the streams, to organize the streams for like the likes of Europeans, the BJJ, the GrappleFest and all sorts of things. So the amount of logistics, the amount of work that goes into this, there's no way it can be free.
Oh, me and you have been around the scene a long time now, so I remember like Voodoo videos, things like that, producing these, and the IBGF doing their own stream. It was a terrible stream. You were lucky to have one or two cameras, and if you saw yourself on one of the mats in the background, you were buzzing. Nowadays you can go on any single mat, any single time, watch any single match, and people don't really have the logistics. Like, do they think this is getting free? I've heard people moaning about cameras and it should be this HD equipment, should be that, and everything. My stream always seems to work pretty much fine, and a lot of people say, they complain about the streams. I know this because I always watch the hard copy back on the stream. So I know that our stream has been fine. And a lot of people go, yeah, my stream went out at such a time and everything. I'm thinking, that was your internet connection in your house. Because I'm watching the stream and I watched it at that time. And I'm like, our stream was absolutely fine, mate. But you don't like to be clever about these things and put people down online. But, I have a couple of times I've written on posts and I've thought the stream was absolutely fine at that time. So I think you should have a look at your own internet connection. Let's face it, most people's internet connection at home, when they're watching things at 7, 8 p.m. at night on a Saturday night, the traffic's pretty huge, isn't it, at that time? So, it's there's so much goes into it. There's so much goes into it, and it costs a lot of money. And they're the guys out there, until somebody else comes in and does things better, people need to get with the program if they want to watch these things. And let's face it, if you've been training over 10 years, you'll know that there was nothing. So this is a really, really good thing that's going on these days, and it's only going to get better and bigger.
Exactly, and you can always kind of express your opinion with your own money, right? You can, if you like it, you buy it. If you don't like it, you don't buy it. As simple as that. But also said, if it's a free market, so I'm pretty sure if somebody comes along and offers a bit more to the organizations, to the companies, and decides to do things better, fair enough, they can do that. But at the moment, these are the guys that are taking the risk. So sometimes I'm watching them as well, and the stream freezes, and it's not because of my internet. But I don't think the guys there are sitting looking at their frozen stream or some problems they have and say, yeah, that's exactly what we intended to do. We intended for our stream to break down, and we deliberately want to be mediocre and charge a high price. No, I'm pretty sure the guys have a certain business model. They want to put a quality product out there because that will enable them to stay on the forefront of this industry that they largely kind of created and enable the growth of. But if there's somebody else comes along with the similar concept, fair enough, that will only be welcome.
And Flow have sort of got the confidence of most of the jiu-jitsu world now. The shows want to be on it. Look at the job that they did with the ADCC this year. It was unbelievable, and they won a couple of years back in Finland as well. That was amazing as well. The job that they've done. The last few ADCCs before that, I was watching them. I remember the one was it Brazil? Was it 2015 or was it 2013? I'm not sure, but I remember having to turn it off because it was pointless. I couldn't even watch it. It was literally, I couldn't see it. If it was on, it was just a load of pixels across my screen, and most of the time it was just a black screen. Nowadays, when I watched that the ADCC 2019, it was unbelievable. The production value was unbelievable. The show was unbelievable. The stream was unbelievable, and I was like, there's no one else doing it any better than that. So, people need to give them a bit of credit. But it's the same in anything, isn't it? If something goes wrong, there's a lot of voices shouting. When things go good, nobody says anything.
Exactly. But yeah, it becomes you get used to good things pretty quickly, and then it becomes the kind of the standard, the lower standard, let's say, and then you just want things better. So it's pretty natural, I guess, in every walk of life, every part of life. So, but yeah, give the guys the credit when it's due. So let's move on then to again, just from the outside perspective, you have your live gate sales, you have your Flograplling deal that pay for you. What else goes into your revenue pocket, kind of say? In addition to that, do you have any sponsors, or what other ways of generating income do you have within the promotion? Yeah,
sponsors. We've got 3 sort of really fantastic main sponsors. I don't know if we can name them, but MVR Fightwear, it have been fantastic. They're our main sponsor. They provide every single show. We have Safe and Sound Security and also Chill Logistics. They've been our 3 sort of solid sponsors every single time. That creates the revenue. So basically, along with ticket sales and with the Flograplling revenue, there are 3 streams of income at the moment. I have had quite a lot of interest, especially after the last couple of shows, and bringing some small sponsors in as well, trying to put together some little packages for people, so they're not as expensive as heavy hitting. So we're trying to do some of those. I had loads of interest when we had the Gordon Ryan match booked for the next show. People were just in the inbox. It's a shame because there's been a couple of other apparel sponsors who are in there, but I made the deal with MVR when they came on at the start. Said you'll be if we're going to do a clothing company, then we'll stick to you for that. So I've tried to be as loyal to them as they have been to me. But yeah, raising more and more revenue through sponsorship deals, things like that. That's the sort of one of my main sort of things at the moment. And everything that we do, everything that we generate, we throw back in, and we're trying. If I can raise more and more money, then there's going to be more and more athletes, bigger athletes on the show. Hopefully, that'll sell more and more tickets. People watch more and more on Flow. We'll become a bigger asset to them, and the whole ball keeps rolling. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very interesting. And another point that always interested me when I see is the co-promotion, which was the plan for your last show, right? It's where two promotional organizations come together to put on a show. So your last one, the one that got cancelled, was together with Third Coast Grappling. So how does the relationship work, especially from a financial point of view, when it's a co-promotion? So can you give us some insight into that?
Yes, sort of how we were going to do it was we both sort of got a similar sort of revenue from Flow. So we worked out a deal there. The way we were going to do it was we basically did this show, we produced this show, we did everything that, and we worked with Third Coast. They were coming over, bring some athletes. We're going to do everything, and then we were going to do a return leg in December where they did exactly the same. So they would organise everything. They would do this. Was how we were going to do it. It was just it's a good little promotion thing. I tried to be pretty friendly with most of the guys who were the promoters, and I talked to guys at Polaris about our dates, guys at Battle Grapple, things like that. Tried to be keep it good. So I've been speaking to the guy at Third Coast, just basically saying I like your shows because I like what he was doing. We got chatting, and the idea just came up, and I said sort of okay, let's do it. I had spoke with Seth Daniels about a year ago at Fight to Win, doing something similar, but nothing ever came of it. I think he was just really up the wall busy. He does like 1 million shows a week, and you're doing ADCCs and stuff like that. So I don't like to be intrusive to guys, but this one came about, so we said, okay, let's do it. And that was the plan. We did one show over here, then we were going to bring a little team of people over there, and it was a UK v USA thing. We were supposed to be in December. Obviously, that's just all gone out the window with like we said before, with this COVID-19 thing, and no one knows what's happening with the gyms, and no venues are open, no one can train. So I don't think that's going to come to fruition in 2020. I'm going to be honest. And we both said, let's just wait and see.
Yeah, that's it. And just last one on this topic. If it's an exchange of shows, let's say you are taking the benefits actually of the UK-based one, and then they would take the benefits of their local show, right? What about the risks? Is it again you bearing all the risks? So you essentially, if you bring in the likes of Gordon over, which is associated probably with a few expenses, right? Are you also bearing the risks of that?
Yeah, on this side we were gonna bear the risk this side, and they were gonna do the same on the other side. Yeah, that's the way we're gonna work it. Again, working to budgets, working to this, working everything out. It was still the same. Gordon, like you say, not cheap at all. Probably the most expensive athlete. But the interest we got from bringing Gordon over was absolutely phenomenal. It was huge. I was so excited to do it. We're the first guys in Europe to do it. He's never been over here, never competed over it. Well, apart from the ADCC in 2017. But that's a different thing from a professional sort of grappling show. I had seminars, we're working out, there's a whole package. I was sort of getting everything together. I was really excited to do it. But hopefully that's something we're going to do in the future anyway. So I'm still talking to him and his manager. So hopefully we can, things like that we can sort out. But yeah, it was a bit of a kick in the teeth, the whole thing to set it up. But yeah, the expenses were going to be sort of done on our side, and then split on their side on the other way around.
Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about matchmaking. Okay, I think I saw you post recently about the kind of the percentage submissions in your show. Kind of some stats on the submissions and the kind of the style of the shows and the matchmaking. So how does do you do all the matchmaking, or how does this happen?
Yeah, I do it all myself, every single match. Really basic the way I do it. I'm really old school. It's the hardest and the best part, most rewarding part of the whole show and the whole process and the whole business for me. I literally study tape like I don't know if there's anyone else who studies as much tape as I do. Then fair play to them, because I literally spend hours a day watching tape. I'm constantly looking out for new athletes, new guys, and this is even down to like purple belt local guys and stuff like that. I only want guys who go for it. I even say it in the rules meeting every time we have a rules meeting. I say, listen, if you come here and you put on a great show and the crowd are going crazy, but you lose a decision just, because you and the other guy, you will come back. If you come in here and you pass someone's guard and you lie on top of them in side control for 10 minutes and you win the match, I won't be interested in bringing you back. Put on a good show. Take away that fear of, going back to the IBJF thing of getting swept and thinking, oh no, the match is over. Don't worry about that. Just, put on a good show. So I'm constantly looking for those guys. I'm looking to put them together. When it comes to the top guys, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder because you're fighting against a few different things. A lot of them want paying different sums of money. Some of them are really easy to deal with. Some of them, don't even ask you the money. They just want the matches straight away. I love those sort of guys. Some of them immediately tend to be guys, from Brazil who jump on you immediately asking you how much is it going to be, what's the expenses, what's this. But, they're financially looking after themselves. I understand it. Then you're also looking, apart from the financials, are they available? A lot of them have seminars booked up 6 months in advance. A lot of them have got other matches with other promotions, things like that. Injuries, all this sort of thing. You're trying to put all those things together, condense everything, and put the matches together. Sometimes I'll have a match, a guy like Craig Jones or the Rutulos, the Meow Brothers, anything like that. And then you think, I've secured them, fantastic. Trying to find them a match can sometimes take weeks and weeks and weeks, and you think, these guys are. Some people don't want the matches. Some people are unavailable for various different things. Some people you just can't financially afford because they give. I have to, like I said, I've said it earlier. I literally have to turn down top 10 guys every single time I put a show together, either because they price themselves out, or just other factors, things like that. We just can't put the match together, but. Saying that, it's probably the hardest bit, the most time-consuming bit for me, but it is the best and most rewarding bit. When you put that big match together and you're like, wow, and sometimes I have to sit in those matches for like 2-3 weeks before we can release them, do you know what I mean? And you're trying to get everything put together, and the excitement you've got knowing that when that match gets put out, everyone's going to go crazy for it. Or I like to put the whole card out together, to be honest with you. And when I do that, I like people to see it, I think it gives that sort of little edge to everything. So it's the hardest part, it's the buddhist part. But I literally do it all myself, and I'm an absolute geek when it comes to sitting down and watching matches. But I think it's worked so far. Everyone seems to like the way I put matches together, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, the last 2 shows have been the cracker, absolutely, especially the likes of Rotala brothers, and they just put
so cool. Honestly, they're so cool. They're like they just turned 17 now. They're absolute, they're so nice to easy to deal with. The mum comes over with them, and she's really nice as well. They're such cool guys. I've rolled them both. Both times they've come over, we started to organise a little rolling session. We roll them. They're absolutely, they don't look like they should. Well, now they're getting bigger now. Actually, the first time they come over, they still look like sort of young kids. Absolutely murdering you on the mat. Fantastic guys. Well, we've got a lot of time for them, and I'm really pleased I've managed to get a relationship going with them early doors when a few other promotions have sort of maybe ignored them or slept on them. Not ignored them, slept on them. And I was like, listen, these guys are the future of the sport. Let's get them on there ASAP. Plus, I think they're buzzing. Going away, I know I'm sort of going away from it a little bit, but I think they're happy because at the level they are now in the purple belts, they want to be fighting black belts. They can't do that in the IBJJF, so no-gi super fights are the way forward for them. So it's worked out well for both of us, for both parties, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And just again, going back to matchmaking, so from my kind of amateur perspective, when I was looking at things and I was saying, and it kind of goes contrary to your point that you made in your latest post about trying to match people evenly, I always thought that promotions on purpose mismatch people on one or two occasions to get the high right real submissions, because you will always get, if it's a much better guy, they will always get a super duper like crazy submission on the guy who is lower level than them. So is that the truth? Is it just my naivety kind of?
I'm sure that some promotions have done things like that. I'm sure they have, yeah. And I'm sure, going back to the old MMA thing, it's that thing of give the ticket seller, the guy who sells 100 tickets, an easy fight, isn't it? So he wins, the crowd are happy, everyone's happy, cheering in the background. It's that thing. I haven't done it. And if you actually look at the matches I've put together for my own team, I think we're just about level on wins or something like that than we are. So there's no one getting an easy ride. I refuse to give anyone an easy ride. I'll be honest with you, though, I haven't actually ever had anyone ask me to give me an easy ride. The way we do things in weight classes as well, I try and keep the weight classes so everyone's pretty much the same belt, the same weight, the same sort of experience. I don't give anyone sort of an easy ride. And I say it's up to you to put a show on. Now, I know that's not always great. If you look at, say, Polaris, Tonan v. Pal Harris, probably their best ever match, unbelievable match. I was a great fan, huge match. Total mismatch in terms of size and things like that, wasn't it? But that produced one of the best matches we've ever seen. So I am not saying my way is the best way. I'm just saying it's the way I do it. This is how we do things, and this is our going back to that thing of sort of putting our stamp on things ourselves. This is how we do things, yeah. But no, I've never given everyone an easy ride, never given anyone a gimme fight, and unfortunately we've had some really, really highlight submissions and what have been 50-50 fair matches. So yeah, pretty pleased with that.
Very good. And you don't do any more no time limit matches, right?
Well, Gordon v. Kyle was supposed to be a no time limit match, yeah. So hopefully that's something we can look at. Gordon only wants no time limit, submission only matches now. He doesn't want 15, 20-minute matches. He's basically told us that that's what he wants now. So I'm pretty sure hopefully we will do another one of those. The plan was really at the first, we did actually say, shall we make every main event that? But then we were like, asking athletes, honestly, some of the top guys, you say to them no time limit, and they're thinking, we did the first ones at 20 minutes, and the people were moaning about 20 minutes, saying that's too much. We've now knocked that down to 15-minute fights, and everyone seems sort of okay with 15 minutes. There's not too many guys out there who want to do no time limit, no matter what they say on Instagram or posts or podcasts. Trust me, when you talk to them, these guys, not everybody wants to do no time limit.
Yeah, it makes sense. And in terms of your dealings with the athletes, how do you find the level of professionalism, and are there any kind of patterns, whether it's regional patterns, let's say dealing with the guys from the States, it's one way, dealing European guys, UK based, or otherwise it's a different way of dealing them. You mentioned some of them have the managers, so how do you find the overall scene of the fighter engagement and fighter kind of relationships and communications?
It's pretty cool, to be honest, because I pretty much just speak to them all directly via sort of Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And then the messages they'll give me the phone number or their email, and they'll move on to email or, and WhatsApp and stuff like that. But at the start, it's pretty much, if I haven't dealt with them before, or actually the guys who I have dealt with as well, I just approach them on social media. Nowadays, it's a lot easier simply because everybody knows who we are. So when they get a message from the GrappleFest page, I'm pretty sure they know who it is, and they're like, okay, yeah, and they'll open the message. When I first started, I tend to find I didn't get any replies. I'd message 10 people and get 2 replies, something like that, off the top guys. But now we tend to pretty much always get a reply back from everybody. So yeah, there's a couple of people got managers, a couple of people sent you on, a couple of strange, obviously, the big names, sort of Gordon, things like that. But nearly all the others I deal with them directly. But then weirdly, there's been some couple of like lower level guys who sort of said, yeah, speak to the manager. And I'm sort of like, okay. And these guys are like, purple or brown belts. I'm going to be like, that one's a bit weird, mate. I'm talking to sort of the best guys in the world directly to speak to your manager. But it tends to be, I always say it's one of those, I'm sure we've all said it, isn't it? Imagine trying to approach someone in the top 10 best footballers in the world. You wouldn't get anywhere near them, would you? You'd have to go through so many loops and hoops to speak to them directly. It'd be unbelievable. Where in the jiu-jitsu community, I can pretty much speak to the best guys in the world just by sending them a social media message on Instagram. So yeah, it's been pretty good. I've had a couple of people come out with some crazy sums of money, but I've never really had anyone who's been like arrogant to me or anything like that. So far, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, and do you find that the kind of recent trends of athletes, top-tier athletes, being quite vocal, or I don't know whether you can call it transparency, but anyway, they're being quite vocal and putting out there certain figures as to what they're making from, whether it's seminars, whether it's competitions, etc. So do you think that in a way that affects the rest of the community and what they're expecting to make out of the shows, or like how does it work from your perspective?
Yeah, I definitely think it's some of them have raised. I mean, to be honest with you, I remember when I first started and I was trying to speak to people, and this was when sort of ACB was still around, and they were paying ridiculous money to sort of people, and then people saying, oh yeah, well I get paid this by them, I get paid that by them. And I sort of sat back on that and said, that isn't going to last forever. I said, they can't sustain that, there's no way. And it turned out to be true. So then people went back to more realistic sort of figures when they're asking. It's quite interesting really, because you'll speak to the European and the American guys, and you pretty much put a figure on the table and say, listen, this is what I can afford to pay, this is it, blah blah blah, are you interested or not? And they're pretty much straight up to go yes or no. With the Brazilian guys, it's a haggle and a barter every time, which I think is just their nature. I'm not in any way trying to slight them by saying that, but they'll start off on sort of a big 5-figure sum, and then you'll come in with your sum, and then hopefully you'll meet somewhere in the middle. And that's the way they seem to do things. So it is different. But there's a couple of people in the game who, there's people like, Gordon, Galvao, Buchecha, Penna. They can charge more than everyone else because of who they are and what they have achieved. If you haven't achieved those things, then really you can't ask for the same sums of money as they can. So you need to be realistic. I've had a few guys who've said we've had to turn down, who've come out with, most of them, it's sometimes you're so close to making a deal as well. You're literally talking, a couple of grand here and there to try and put a match together, and you just can't manage to nail it. And I always think, wow, why have they turned that down to make nothing that weekend when they could have made that, instead? But at the same time, I won't jeopardize my company's future by paying too much over the odds, because once that becomes the norm, then people say, and people in the jiu-jitsu community do speak, and they'll say, yeah, well, he paid me this, he paid me that. And I'm like, okay. Then the whole show becomes, it's costing too much money. So they have to be realistic. They have to have a sort of a realistic fee that we can both work off, because we pay the flights as well, we pay their expenses, pay hotels and things like that. The whole package isn't cheap, so it's got to be affordable for us as well. And at the end of the day, it's 10-15 minutes work, isn't it? I know they put years and years and years into that in the past to get where they are, but it's better that they get paid than they don't get paid, for me, isn't it? And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to pay these guys, and we're trying to bring them to the top. The guys who were on the show, who were purple belts and stuff like that, even we say to you, listen, guys, in 5-6 years' time, I want you to be headlining this show. So here's your opportunity to put your name out there, so to build a brand. And I think that people are becoming more and more conscious of building themselves up and athletes. But then there is some crazy figures banded around that only a few people can.
And do you think it's an issue of some form of an ego, where you say, well, this is how much I'm going to get paid, or people trying to actively avoid matches, or what do you think the issue is? Or sometimes, when you name a certain figure, you don't want to be seen as, backing off of a particular bar that you set yourself, almost like a self-trap.
I think it's a bit of a mix of all those things you've just said. I have had people 100%, I know for a fact, have said they're interested in such a match, you put it together, and they've turned around and gone, yeah, I want 30 grand for that. And I'm like, mate, no one in the world's going to pay you 30,000, for that. And I'm pretty sure that is an active way of dodging the match, that knowing that I could not afford to pay that. If I'd have turned around and said 30,000, I'm pretty sure they said, no, I want 50. Do you know what I mean? Also, I think people have been used to getting paid. Some promotions have overpaid. A lot of those promotions aren't around anymore. I think they think, oh yeah, well, I got paid 10 grand by those, so I want 10 grand off everybody. And I'm like, that isn't going to happen. You're not going to get that sort of money off everybody. Be realistic. And then I think it comes down to some guys will ask for X amount. You're on Y, and you're trying to meet in the middle. We're trying to get something sorted, and they will just sort of, I think, a bit of ego, a bit of arrogance. They just literally won't budge off the fee. Again, though, 80-85% of the athletes I spoke to have been pretty cool, and we've managed to work things out. There's been a couple who've just totally out there, mad figures, sort of excuses, things like that. But, I tend not to worry about it. I really don't take it to heart. I never name any names. I keep everything confidential. I think that's a big thing that you've got to do. And then basically I just move on to the next guy and just go, okay, let's get somebody else,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, especially as the sport is growing, you will have more variety in names as well. So whereas now you have maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 superstars. Hopefully we'll have a few more, so there'll be.
I mean, every time every year there's a new black belt world champion in gi and no gi, isn't there? Every 2 years there's new ADCC champions. It's evolving all the time.
And in terms of fighter logistics, and you mentioned that you kind of paying for a lot of expenses, but do they have to arrange their own flights, hotel, etc., and you just reimburse them, or do you actually have a division of your promotion that deals with all of the logistics for the fighters, especially for the ones that are coming from the States or elsewhere?
Yeah, the division for the logistics of it is called my wife. So basically, she we have actually done both. We have had some guys who just said, "Listen, people like us, likes of Craig Jones, people like that, he go flying all over the place all the time, so he never knows where he is. So he just says, I'll book my flights, give me X amount. Okay, right. He's dead easy to deal with. Really cool. I've had a couple of other guys who are like that. Other people just want everything for them. You've got to book everything, get all the flights, get all those sorted. You have to get the passport details, all, the dates of birth, things like that. Book the flight, book everything, then tell them their exact itinerary, where they need to be, what time they need to be there, get them picked up from the airport. We have to do all those sort of things. All the hotels, we literally block book all those ourselves. We just say, right, you've got X amount of people for X amount of nights. Put them all in the same hotel. Normally get a decent deal on the hotel because we're putting a few people in there and put all that together. But yeah, basically my wife sort of she's really organised and she deals all that side of things, cracks on with it. But it is a lot easier for me to just say to the fighters, listen, I can give you X amount, which is basically the same as what the flight would cost us. Do you want to book it? Because it's a load easier for me to do. I make sure that always, if the guys are flying international, I always try and get them picked up from the airport, or we reimburse them with an Uber or a taxi, if it's logistically not possible. But yeah, we pretty much have to do a lot of that ourselves. And it's really time consuming as well. When you've got to go in, you've got to go, right, okay, it's all confirmed and it's done. Also, there's a risk of, we've had a couple of times we've done this for people, then they've got injured and things like that, and we've lost out on £500-600 on a flight and things like that. It can be a bit of a nightmare. Whereas if they do it themselves and they book it on their own credit card, they can normally claim it back on insurance, whereas we can't because it's not in our name. So it would be, in a perfect world, people would book all their own flights and everything, things like that. And we could just reimburse them, but it isn't the way it is. Some people want everything doing for them. So if that's the way it is and that's what it takes to bring them over, then that's what we have to do.
Are there ever any concerns from the fighters regarding the actual performance pay?
I know for a fact there's no one in the whole industry can ever say anything about me not paying anyone. Everyone's been paid, every single person, any single show. Even a couple of people who, I think have messed things up, not athletes, job-wise and things like that. I've still paid them, I've just not used them again, do you know what I mean? So it's, but yeah, every person, I've paid everybody. Reputation, it means a lot to me in the game. I think you survive a lot on especially as a promoter, with your reputation. So it's a big thing for me to always be able to, if anyone asks any questions, they can always say, well, yeah, at the end of the day, he paid me every single time. So yeah, that's big.
Yeah, and so your payments are never kind of contingent on you making a certain return, because I think that was kind of it's absolutely ridiculous what happened on was it Substars? So we didn't make money, therefore we can't pay you. It's like, well, you should have had money in the pocket before, wherever you source it, whether it's your own capital or you bring outside investment, but you should have had those money ready and available to pay regardless of what you make out of the gates or pay-per-views, right?
Yeah, I mean, I nearly wrote a couple of things on that, but I decided, not to put myself in that situation. But you've just hit the nail on the head. You should have the money to fund your show regardless. Yeah. So if you've agreed X amount with X amount of fighters to pay them, and that bill costs you, whatever it is, you should have those funds available to pay on the night if needed to, or if agreed before, whatever. It is not up to you to be able to pay your fighters only with the revenue that you think you're going to bring in. You should basically run your show thinking that I am going to sell 0 tickets or 0 pay-per-views, worst case scenario, and still be able to pay it. It's never going to happen, but that's the way it should be. So yeah, they made a horrendous mistake, and I didn't really like the excuses they came out with. We're trying to work with athletes. We're going to get this. We're trying to pay into it. And I'm like, mate, you agreed to pay them X amount of money, and I know some of the figures that they were paying as well, and they were horrendous. They were like huge. How they thought they were going to raise, I don't know, I think it must have been about 100, 150 grand or something like that to pay all these people. I've got no idea how they thought they were going to do that off a pay-per-view. but yeah, it was a bad situation for everybody. And I felt sorry for the guys, the athletes involved. I didn't feel sorry for the promoters. I felt sorry for the athletes because, they've come over, they've done their job, they've done their thing, they've gone in, they've flown there, they've trained, for 8 weeks or whatever. So for the fight, they put it all on the line. They've had the fight, and then now they're not going to get paid. I feel sorry for them. You still hear the things about Meta Morris now, don't you? There's still people snipe now.
Yeah.
And that was what, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
All the hate, yeah. It doesn't really, like, once you damage your reputation like that, it doesn't go away anymore. Like you've tainted yourself forever, and you can't really you can't make it right anymore because nobody trusts you anymore. So
yeah. Which is why what I said earlier, I think pay-per-view in jiu-jitsu is a very hard sell because, trust me, I know local guys back in the UK and big teams and guys who I've trained with, things like that, who live 10, 20 miles away from where I put my show in Liverpool, and they've never come to watch the show. They might sit and watch it on Flow maybe because they've got Flow and things like that. But if you want people to spend money on just your show, that's a hard ask these days. People have got bills, they've got other things going on, they've got kids, they've got this, they can't just get away. Do you know what I mean? And when I say that, I'm not saying anything about the person who's not bought a ticket, not come to them. I'm sort of saying you can't rely on thinking, oh yeah, everyone's going to come and watch your show. They aren't. So it's a tough sell.
Yeah, but it's a problem, I think, overall in the kind of when you try to organize something new. Or you have some form of an idea that you are completely immersed in, right? You're so sure that it's the best idea ever because it's your idea, and if you've thought it through so many times, you're completely oblivious to all the things that are not working with this, and you're so consumed by this idea that you are basically coming up with these kind of best case scenarios, but they're not even best case scenarios in your head. They're almost guaranteed scenarios, and you're completely, as I said, oblivious to the outside world and what the reality actually is. And like even with my own ideas, anytime I try to come up something, just having burnt myself on a few things like this, just on trial and error now, trying to keep myself a little bit more grounded and say, okay, this is what I think is going to happen, but the reality is like nobody else might think the same way, and you always almost go with the assumption now that there'll be zero sales, nobody will ever want this, and what do I do there? So how do I kind of bring this off the ground? But as I said, when people do organize the shows, and I've spoken to a few people like this, and it's always like, yeah, but we should be selling this number of tickets, we should be selling this number of pay-per-views. But again, that's a very naive thought when you are consumed by your own idea.
Yeah, you can tell that you've thought about that, and you've understood it, and you've got experience of it because, like you said, that's one of the main things. You think it's amazing. Every time when I put my show together, I'm in the bubble of running this show, and I'm in there, and I think it's amazing. Luckily, so far, a lot of other people have thought the same, and they've enjoyed everything. But there always is that danger if you put that show or that match together or something like that, and people hate it and they've got no interest in it. So you can't let those things consume you, like you say, and live in that bubble. And you've got to be driven, and you've got to be focused, and you've got to believe in what you're doing. But you can't get carried away with things. You constantly. And this is what I think people have done, especially like that Substars thing. They've gone and gone, we're going to book good, and we're going to book this, we're going to book these people. Everyone's going to come and watch it, and everyone's going to buy a ticket. They're not.
Yeah, and especially as the market gets saturated to an extent, and you see largely similar names kind of popping up here and there, very frequently. So even with the likes of Gordon, it's like you kind of know the outcome already, right? You know what I mean? So that is not such a massive selling factor anymore. Because whereas in the past it was like, well, can somebody dethrone Gordon? So at the moment, you look at the matches and it's like, there's only like a handful of people who can really give him a fight. So
And I think that's why he's a clever guy, and he gets stick, doesn't he? And he gets this and that, but he's a clever guy on the ball. And I think this is why he's actually said, I, from now on, only want no time limit, submission-only matches, real, genuine submission-only matches. I'm quite sort of careful on calling my show submission grappling rather than submission only, because there is decisions at the end of the day. But I'm sort of digressing a little bit. Gordon only wants those matches now, so he's been clever and he's remarketing himself, saying I don't want a 15-minute match where someone can storm me or can win on points and people can talk shit and stuff like that. He wants one where at the end of the day one person will get submitted, so then he can say I've been submitted. So from that point of view, I think that's pretty clever. He's remarketed himself, so you've got to give him his dues on stuff like that. He knows how to play the game, and he is the highest paid guy in the sport, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to wrap up now, a couple more questions in relation to your learnings from your own show, from one to another. So are there any things that you have learned along the way that you started implementing in your later shows and you didn't do in the beginning? Or are there any things that you're not doing anymore because you learned that's not the best way to do? And are there any learnings from the outside? So, well, obviously they're the likes of the Metamoris and the failed shows. So what do you learn from the outside and inside that you are implementing or otherwise in your own promotion?
It was just there's been nothing major in terms of the actual show on the day. It's just been a little learning curve at the start on how things would run. Obviously not being able to predict times. A lot of people say, what time am I on, what time am I here? We just keep our show rolling, so it's if a match lasts 30 seconds or it lasts 10 minutes, you're on next. So we learned how to run the show, and I've got a lot of credit, give that to the girls back show, my wife and Hannah, who sort of run that. They have them run perfectly. Things with the filming, we added a couple more cameras in and stuff like that because there's a few angles that we're sort of missing. But it is impossible to get every angle all the time. You know what it's like. Submissions happen so quickly that sometimes, even though we've got 3 cameras there covering 2 people fighting, we can't always cover that. But we added another camera in, so there's extra angles, just little things in the venue, when we sort of, managed to separate things up. It was only little things like that we learned each time. Making sure we had a couple of spares of things. We once ran out of a horn, for the end of the match went, so we had to get the DJ to improvise and make a noise on his thing at the end of it. Little things, just little things like that we've learned along the way. There's been nothing bad, nothing huge, nothing that we've made any huge mistakes with or anything yet, nothing that we couldn't solve. But we just focus on making each show go forward and make each one a little bit better.
Amazing. And you are working as a commentator on the day, right?
Yeah, and do you know why? I sort of did it at the start because at the end of the day, I am just a huge fan, really, and I love watching. Like I said before, I watch tape, watch matches all the time. I really enjoy it. Some people I know who train jiu-jitsu never watch it at all. They don't like it. I do. I really enjoy it. So the commentary, A, lets me watch all the matches, and B, and the other way. Otherwise, you're constantly getting sort of harassed by everybody, and which not a bad thing. But people, you need to do jobs here and there. Darren looks after all that on the day. He does all that, with and obviously the girls and the runners and things like that. They deal with it. It allows me to sort of watch the matches. And as I said, I'm a huge fan. But I've actually really grown into really enjoying the commentary job as well. I actually really like doing it. I have done commentary the past, on a couple of events. And that's when I did notice a couple of things as well. I remember doing one GrappleMania a few years ago, and I didn't know any of the rules of any of the matches when they were coming out. They're all different rules. There was gi matches in IBJF. There was no gi matches that were submission only. Then there was gi matches that were submission only. We weren't told anything. I didn't know, I didn't know which match was which. The fight card was sort of all that, and I thought, right, if I'm going to do this properly, I want to know what everything is, everything going. It's another thing which I didn't actually touch on. I did put it in my notes to say that one of our things in our show is every single match is the same rule set. I think this is a big thing for people because everyone knows every single time a match comes on that it's the same rules every single time. They don't have to, they're not sure what's this one, what's that one, is this IBJF, is it gi, is this no gi? It's all the same. It's all submission grappling. So I think for the fans, it's an outside and it's an easy thing for them to watch. And we've actually had people from outside the jiu-jitsu community come and watch them, which is the ultimate goal to make any money. You have to make it outside the jiu-jitsu community. People need to come and watch these things, who don't train. So going back to it, that's the way we did it. So I like to make sure, A, I know all the competitors because I put the matches together, and B, I really enjoy doing it, and C, I think I can give a little bit of insight to the viewers at home, a little rather than being someone who's just come from the outside, I can give them a little personal insight in how we put matches together, who we spoke to, and things like that. So, yeah, really enjoy the commentary, really enjoy it.
Fantastic. And the last question is the one I ask most of my guests on the podcast is for what are your thoughts, if any, on the kind of the state of jiu-jitsu industry, and what are some of the key steps we as a community can take in order to grow it, to make it more professional?
It's tough. It is a tough one. I mean, it's a growing market. It's probably the first martial art outside of boxing. Obviously, you can include professional wrestling. That's sort of become that way. A lot of sports are still amateur, isn't it? It's growing. It's getting bigger. There's more and more participants. There's been a lot of people make a lot of mistakes in shows, like we've touched on Meta Morris and things like that, and the substars, and people aren't 100% trusting the stuff. But the main thing for me, this sport is going to grow as a professional sport for people to watch, because it is very much we're in it day to day. So for us, it's life. But for most people, it's just a niche hobby, isn't it? If we need to make this thing grow, we need to get people outside of jiu-jitsu interested in it, which I slightly touched on, a couple of minutes ago. If we can get people to watch that, watch the sport, get involved in the sport, get the kids involved in the sport and grow it, that's going to be one of the big things. Everyone knows, if they're watching a judo match in the Olympics, they all know that the guy's got to throw the guy, and that's it, they win. We need to sort of make sure that the submission becomes that, which was my thing with, getting away from the IBGF style of points, that a submission wins that. So when people know, people are getting more and more aware due to the UFC. Your average person now sort of knows what an armbar is, what a rear naked choke is. But we need to make them know that the submission, is the ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu with grappling. So we need to grow it. It needs to be like that. For me, that's the only single way that if people become interested from the outside who aren't in the insular community, that's the only way this thing's going to grow.
Makes sense. Okay, Chris, thanks very much for all your valuable insights. I'm pretty sure the listeners will find this very interesting. I did, certainly. So massive thanks for joining us.
And this is it. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Thank you.